Lesson 101 of A Course in Miracles. Yesterday we had lesson 100, which was my part is essential to God's plan for salvation. And in that lesson, it says God's will for you is perfect happiness. Today is lesson 101. God's will for me is perfect happiness. So it's following on yesterday's lesson. God's will for me is perfect happiness. We're going to read it and we'll talk about it. Paragraph 1. Today we will continue with the theme of happiness. This is a key idea in understanding what salvation means. You still believe it asks for suffering as penance for your, quote, sins, unquote. This is not so. Yet you must think it's so while you believe that sin is real and that God's Son can sin. Paragraph 2. If sin is real, then punishment is just and cannot be escaped. Salvation thus cannot be purchased but through suffering. If sin is real, then happiness must be illusion, for they cannot both be true. The sinful warrant only death and pain, and it is this they ask for they know it waits for them, and it will seek them out and find them somewhere, sometime, in some form that evens the account they owe to God. They would escape him in their fear, and yet he will pursue, and they cannot escape. Paragraph 3. If sin is real, salvation must be pain. Pain is the cost of sin, and suffering can never be escaped if sin is real. Salvation must be feared, for it will kill, but slowly, taking everything away before it grants the welcome boon of death to victims who are little more than bones before salvation is appeased. Its wrath is boundless, merciless, but wholly just. Paragraph 4. Who would seek out such savage punishment? Who would not flee salvation and attempt in every way he can to drown the voice which offers it to him? Why would he try to listen and accept its offering? If sin is real, its offering is death, and meted out in cruel form to match the vicious wishes in which sin is born. If sin is real, salvation has become your bitter enemy, the curse of God upon you who have crucified his Son. You need the practice periods, this is paragraph 5. You need the practice periods today. The exercises teach sin is not real, and all that you believe must come from sin will never happen, for it has no cause. Accept atonement with an open mind, which cherishes no lingering belief that you have made a devil of God's Son. There is no sin. We practice with this thought as often as we can today, because it is the basis for today's idea. Paragraph 6. Paragraph 6. God's will for you is perfect happiness because there is no sin, and suffering is causeless. Joy is just, and pain is but the sign you have misunderstood yourself. Fear not the will of God, but turn to it in confidence that it will set you free from all the consequences sin has wrought in feverish imagination. Say, this is in italics, God's will for me is perfect happiness. There is no sin. It has no consequence. So should you start your practice periods, and then attempt again to find the joy these thoughts will introduce into your mind. Paragraph 7. Give these 5 minutes gladly to remove the heavy load you lay upon yourself with the insane belief that sin is real. Today, escape from madness. You are set on freedom's road, and now today's idea brings wings to speed you on, and hope to go still faster to the waiting goal of peace. There is no sin. Remember this today and tell yourself as often as you can, God's will for me is perfect happiness. This is the truth because there is no sin. So clearly, probably doesn't need to be said, but the idea is God's will for me is perfect happiness. But Jesus wasn't focusing on that so much as he was on how to get to the happiness, which is you have to remove the idea of sin, right? So he was really harping upon that there is no sin. And he said there is no sin probably at least 3 times. We'll have to see when we reread this now. Sin is totally unreal. The idea of sin is a concept of the ego. The ego does not exist, and thus sin does not exist. And as long as we have a belief in sin, we will not be happy, we will not be joyous, we will not remember who we truly are, because we will see a shadow of ourself, right? We will see a distorted picture of what we truly are. So let's read paragraph 1, and we'll go through each paragraph and see if we can, as I've been saying, tease out the nuances of what Jesus is saying. Maybe look at some of the wordplay. Maybe think about why he's saying something one way versus another way. You start to look at the authorial intention. What was the intention in how he was saying? What was the method in how he was saying what he was saying? All right, so paragraph 1. Today we will continue with the theme of happiness from yesterday, right? But this is a recurring theme in the course. This is a key idea in understanding what salvation means. You still believe it asks for suffering as penance for your, quote, sins, unquote. This is not so. Yet you must think it's so while you believe that sin is real and that God's Son can sin. Okay, so as long as you think that sin is real, you have to believe that you have to suffer in order to be happy, right? This is a key element of the ego's thought system, that you must do some kind of sacrifice. You must suffer in some way in order to be happy, because you have done something very, very bad and you need to be punished. You're either going to be punished by God or you're going to punish yourself, right? And generally, what do? We punish ourselves because we don't, we think that if we punish ourselves, then God will be easier on us somehow. So now remember that Jesus started the course, the introduction. By the way, the introduction of the course was not the introduction that we have right now, which starts with, this is the Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is up to you. That actually came just a little later. It started actually with the first miracle principle, which is Jesus said to Helen, the first thing you need to know about miracles is that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. And then Helen said to Jesus, don't you think we could have a better introduction than that? That one's a little weird to start with. So then Jesus did the introduction we have. And the whole idea about it's a required course was a kind of a joke. And Jesus was talking to Helen and Bill, or especially to Helen, that you can't elect. This is not an elective. This course is not an elective. You have to take it, right? But the time you take it is up to you. So you can delay, you can procrastinate, but you're going to take it whether you want to or not, because you do want to, because your will is God's will. So you do want to take this course, but you're kind of wavering, and Helen did waver, and Ken Wapnick made the statement that the course probably could have gotten out much sooner than it did, but Helen was quite reluctant in the process. So anyway, what I wanted to say there is in the introduction it says, in this world, love and fear are opposites, but in reality, what is all-encompassing can have no opposite, right? So love, perfect love, has no opposite. So in this case too, you could say perfect happiness has no opposite, right? Sin and suffering are not opposed to happiness in any way. They do not exist, right? So happiness has no opposite, which means that there's nothing competing with it. Only in our minds there is, right? In this world there seems to be, in this world, sin and suffering seem to be very real. In reality, they're not real at all, but they do appear to be very real. So anyway, paragraph 2. If sin is real, then punishment is just and cannot be escaped. Salvation thus cannot be purchased but through suffering. If sin is real, then happiness must be illusion, for they cannot both be true. The sinful warrant only death and pain, and it is this they ask for they know it waits for them, and it will seek them out and find them somewhere, sometime, in some form that evens the account they owe to God. They would escape him in their fear, and yet he will pursue, and they cannot escape. So, if sin is real, then we need to be punished, right? And we cannot be happy unless the score is evened out, right? And God is going to punish us. There's that in the back of our mind, somewhere deep within ourselves, there is this idea. If we look deep enough, we will notice that we fear God's wrath. We fear something's wrath. We fear that we will be punished for our wrongdoing. And the Course, is giving us a simple key to undo this. Not only is it saying sin is not real, and it has no reality in reality, but it's also saying that the way to recognize that sin is unreal is to stop seeing yourself sinful and stop making others sinful and stop judging, right? Because judgment is all about, making something very serious and very real. Whenever we judge, we make things serious and real and oppressive. When we merely look and see that everyone is doing the best they can in the moment, the best they know how, even if it looks very messed up, even if it looks outrageous, whatever they're doing. But we remember, this too is part of God's plan. Whatever I'm seeing, and I recognize that, and I see that there's a perfection there, and rather than judge it, I let it be what it is. Not that you don't maybe do something about it on the level of form. You might have to, right? If someone is harming someone else, for example. So you might do something about it, but in your mind, you would also observe that whatever's happening is part of this divine drama playing itself out, or the divine plan playing itself out. And you would just want to keep reminding yourself that even though this looks very serious, this looks very real, but in reality, it's all part of the egoic thought system that we have accepted, that we've been conditioned to believe in, or that we've conditioned ourselves to believe in, and we also can let it go if we want. All right, so paragraph 3, if sin is real, salvation must be pain. Pain is the cost of sin, and suffering can never be escaped if sin is real. So pain and suffering, right? If sin is real, pain and suffering are very real, and we can't escape them, right? There's no way to get out of it. Pain is the cost of sin, and suffering can never be escaped if sin is real. Salvation must be feared, for it will kill, but slowly, taking everything away before it grants the welcome boon of death to victims who are little more than bones before salvation is appeased. I think there's a play on boon, right? Boon means like a gift or a something good, something some kind of reward, right? A boon. So the play on boon and bones grants the welcome boon of death to victims who are little more than bones before salvation is appeased. Its wrath is boundless, merciless, but wholly just. So we fear, if sin is real, we fear salvation, and for us, if sin is real, we have to suffer. We have to suffer. We have to experience pain and suffering. and ultimately, be martyrs, martyrs for the cause. And Jesus says in the text, I do not ask for martyrs. And he also says, let the journey to the cross is the last useless journey, which means that we don't need to crucify ourselves anymore. Jesus was crucified, but he didn't suffer. This is a core teaching of the Course, that Jesus did not suffer on the cross, but he showed that what he did on the cross was a demonstration to us that even in the most excruciating situation, we can still love, and we can still forgive, and we can still remember that sin is not real, and that forgiveness is the way, right? So we do not need to suffer. We do not need to crucify ourselves anymore. We do not need to be martyrs. We do not need to suffer in order to be happy, or experience pain and suffering in order to be happy. 4, who would seek out such savage punishment? Who would not flee salvation and attempt in every way he can to drown the voice which offers it to him? That's the Holy Spirit, the voice of God, or the voice for God. Why would he try to listen and accept its offering? If sin is real, its offering is death, and meted out in cruel form to match the vicious wishes in which sin is born. Vicious wishes is probably was probably intentional as a cool little phrase. The vicious wishes in which sin is born. If sin is real, salvation has become your bitter enemy, the curse of God upon you who have crucified his Son. So, we fear God. We have made God an unloving Father. This is something Jesus says in the text. We made God in allegiance with the ego thought system, which is a thought system based on separation. We felt like we separated from God, which was not true, impossible. But in feeling that we had done the impossible and separated from God and attacked God and made God an unloving Father, now God is going to get us for doing that. So we don't want salvation, right? Because for us, salvation means that we are going to experience the final judgment, where we will be judged for our sins, and we will have to suffer for our sins before God accepts us. Our sins will not be absolved, right? But we will have to suffer, and it will be merciless, and it will be cruel, and it will be, but ultimately God will then welcome us back. But who would choose that, right? Who would choose to suffer in order to be happy like that? But Jesus is saying we do choose that. We do it unconsciously, but that's what we are choosing when we are choosing the ego, or when we are choosing to live according to fear and according to judgment and the ego thought system. That is basically what we are doing. You need the practice periods today. This is 5. You need the practice periods today. The exercises teach sin is not real, and all that you believe must come from sin will never happen, for it has no cause. Accept atonement with an open mind, which cherishes no lingering belief that you have made a devil of God's Son. Okay, so atonement. Accept atonement with an open mind. So what is atonement? Atonement is not sacrifice in any way. The atonement principle is for the Course, what the atonement principle is that we are not separate from God, and we never separated from God, right? We never for a moment was that ever true. We're still not separate from God, even in this very moment. We might believe that we are, and most of us do believe that we are, but the atonement principle is the principle that states nothing happened. We never separated from God. And if we can only accept this principle, we will be restored to our right mind, to sanity, and we will go home again to God, right? Because God is not cruel. God does not punish. God does not even know about the illusion. God does not even know about separation or the dream of the Son of God. This is like the key principle of the whole course. So if you understand this principle, everything else in the course will make sense based on this one principle. There is no order of difficulty in miracles. It's the whole course started that way with Jesus telling Helen, the first principle of miracles is there's no order of difficulty, which means that nothing in this world can take away the peace of God from you. Nothing, right? Nothing can change the fact that you are still one with God, right? Nothing can change the fact that you are not separate. Nothing, great or small. Even the greatest thing, right, need not trouble you in any way. You look on devastation, the worst, the most horrible thing you can think of. The greatest fear, the greatest fear that you can imagine. You can just remember, it's not real, right? It's not. It may look like it's real. It may seem real. It may feel like but it's not. And if you can stay in your quiet center, even amidst the hurricane, so to speak, then you have made it. You have gotten to where Jesus is trying to get us with this course. Okay. Paragraph 6, God's will for you is perfect happiness because there is no sin and suffering is causeless, has no cause. This is a course in cause and not effect, right? We'll go back to the root cause of everything. And the root cause for the course, or the seeming root cause, is the tiny mad idea. But the tiny mad idea is not real. It's not a true idea. It's a mad idea. It's an insane idea. And the idea is it possible to be is it possible to be separate from God? And the answer was given at the very moment that the tiny mad idea happened. The answer was no, it's not. It's not possible. It's a joke, to even think that. But we took the idea seriously, and in taking the idea seriously, we got to where we think we are now, which is in a world of separation, in a dream of separation, in an illusion of pain and suffering and attack and all the other things that go along with these things. Sin and guilt, fear, attack, judgment, and everything else. Paragraph 6, God's will for you is perfect happiness because there is no sin and suffering is causeless, it has no cause. Joy is just and pain is but the sign you have misunderstood yourself. So the justice of God, the judgment of God is joy, right? God's will for you is happiness. God's will for you is joy. Fear not the will of God, but turn to it in confidence that it will set you free from all the consequences sin has wrought in feverish imagination. Say, God's will for me is perfect happiness. There is no sin. It has no consequence. So should you start your practice periods and then attempt again to find the joy these thoughts will introduce into your mind. Okay, so you're doing a meditation practice, right? You take some time out of your day, and you look for the joy within yourself. You remind yourself that sin is not real, and that I do not need to suffer. There's no sin, and if there's no sin, then suffering is unreal as well. If sin is not real, suffering is not real. And you look and you look for the joy that results from removing the interference, which would be the belief in sin and the belief in suffering. And you just remember, everything is perfect. I don't need to, I really don't need to worry or do anything, to gain God's favor or to appease God's wrath or and it might not be God. It might be, you're afraid of what your brother thinks of you, or your neighbors, or the world thinks of you. But nothing that anyone thinks of you can take away that simple fact, right? Because everyone is looking for the joy. So if anyone is coming at you with a lack of joy and judgment, you can just remind yourself, this person, this brother, is also wanting the joy, and they don't know where to find it. So I need to give them the joy. I need to help them see that the joy is there. So if I attack them back for attacking me, I'm making a mistake, right? They want to know that they are forgiven, right? So if they're attacking me, I need to offer the lily of forgiveness to this brother, right? Or this person. They don't need attack. They're calling for love, right? Everything is either a call for love or an extension of love, meaning that people are either attacking, but in their attacking, they're calling for love, or they are extending love, meaning that they are themselves in the love and they're extending love. And if they're not extending love, then they're attacking. They're calling, but the attack is a call for love, and the call for love is a call to you to offer them love, right? Love and forgiveness. Paragraph 7. Give these 5 minutes gladly. Right? This is something Jesus has been saying. Be happy about this. Don't make this a chore. Don't make this something that oh man, I got to do this 5 minutes shit. I got to give 5 minutes to God right now. And don't think it's a waste of time either. Give these 5 minutes gladly to remove the heavy load you lay upon yourself with the insane belief that sin is real. Today, escape from madness. You are set on freedom's road, and now today's idea brings wings to speed you on and hope to go still faster to the waiting goal of peace. This is very poetic and very nice. Let's read this sentence again. You are set on freedom's road, and now today's idea brings wings to speed you on and hope to go still faster to the waiting goal of peace. There is no sin. Remember this today and tell yourself as often as you can, God's will for me is perfect happiness. This is the truth because there is no sin. It's the most powerful idea in the whole world. Right? These ideas, the course is just presenting the same idea in different ways. It's that one idea. It's the atonement principle. Every lesson is just a variation on the atonement principle, right? The atonement principle is we are still one with God, right? The separation is totally unreal. So, so God is still there in the perfect love, the perfect happiness, the perfect joy. That has never changed, and it's just waiting for us to accept it and to stop fighting it and to stop resisting it, but just to let ourselves go into that love, right? Into that joy, into that happiness. It's all one, happiness, joy, love, peace. They really come to the same thing, right? It's all because oneness is oneness. Oneness means no more words, no more concepts. It's just a state of being, a state of beingness, a state of loving beingness, right? So anyway, I hope this was helpful. I always am very grateful for you for tuning in, and I've been really enjoying your comments, and it's always very nice for me to hear that this is helping someone, and I'm okay with this not getting out to everyone in the whole world, because on some level it is. And when even one person is listening to this and finding it helpful, it has an effect on everyone. So I don't need to be the YouTube superstar or anything. I'm not looking to be that. I'm actually looking to do something a little different, which is just to speak on the level, right, so to speak, and just share in a very simple way these truths with whomever feels the need for them, and so not everyone necessarily will at this time. These ideas haven't reached a mass popular level yet, and maybe they won't for some time. But that's okay, because it's not about changing the world. It's really, this is for you, right? This is for you, not for the whole world necessarily. The world will change as you change, right? So you don't need to focus on changing the world, just changing your own mind, right? Seek not to change the world, seek only to change your mind about the world. So on that note, Godspeed. See you soon.